Coming to you live from New York City in the studios of Manhattan Neighborhood Network. It's Sister Talk TV show. I'm your host, Deetra Kelsey. Today's guest is a returning guest, TAMI TYREE. She's here to talk about her upcoming events, the Frederick Douglas Continuum. But before we get into that discussion, we have a treat for you. We have a wonderful singer, songstress, Saychelle Elise.
How could someone like you love someone like me, full of mistakes and insecurity? When you look at my heart, tell me, what did you see that makes you love me so? Is it the nails that pierced in your side, or the moment you dropped your head and you died? For a sinner like me, you gave up your life. It's time to let you know, Lord, I surrender. I give you all I have. It's not much, but I feel you calling. So here I am, I'm standing in your grace.
That was such a treat, like I said. Yes, it was. So here's my guest. She's been on the show before. Let's welcome, boys and girls, men and women, my sisters and brothers, TAMI TYREE. Hi, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You know, before we get into Frederick Douglass, the events that are coming up, I want you to talk about a little bit about yourself. Now, I do remember that you were here a couple of years, some years ago, and you did something of 12 Years a Slave.
Yes, I was singing in that film.
Yeah, yes. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're all about.
Well, I am really about bringing the culture of African Americans to the general public.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you would say I'm a cultural historian.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I began my program, which I call Echoes of Our Ancestors, in 2008.
Yes. 10 years. Congratulations.
I know.
Some people don't stick
goes by.
with their projects that long. That's great.
Yeah, well, you know, it wasn't something that I knew I would be doing. I'm a singer and a performer, but my priorities changed when I had my children. I was really concerned that my children were not going to learn African American history. And I started teaching them and telling them things. And then I realized that most parents don't have the time or the wherewithal to really ensure that. And the schools are not going to do it.
No.
They should,
They should.
but they're not going to. So we have to take it upon ourselves.
Okay. So you are, your expertise is in African music, correct?
African American music.
African American music. And they used your expertise in 12 Years of a Slave. Is that true? Or
Yes, I was recommended to do the singing. It was not, you didn't see my face. I was a person that was singing for the actors that were singing.
Oh, really? Wow.
Right, and I was recommended because I have a very large specialty in knowledge about these spirituals.
Okay.
Which at the time were called Negro spirituals,
Negro
as you know.
spirituals.
The slave songs.
No,
okay.
that's okay.
Right, exactly.
Okay, before we get into why the events of Frederick Douglass. Can you just sing a little? I'm putting you on the spot.
You really are, because you can hear how terrible I'm talking right now. I can barely talk. I would have loved to sing, but you hear my voice. It's this week. The weather and everything has me really frog-like.
You know.
So I'm struggling to sound nice talking. You hear me? So singing right now, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't be able to do that.
I just wanted you to do just a couple of notes, because
maybe as time goes on, and when I feel, but right now vocally, I sound awful speaking.
You sound great. You sound great, Tammy.
But I wish I could.
And
when you come to the program, I'll be singing a lot.
Remember to call in the show and ask questions. 212-757-1393. That's 212-757-1393. I know you all have lots of questions about these upcoming events featuring Frederick Douglass' story. So, why Frederick Douglass? What made you really get into that?
Oh my gosh. You know, it's so funny because I'm a program that I don't have to answer to a lot of people about what I want to do. So I really go on instinct, gut. I'll wake up with an idea. I'll flesh it out in my mind.
And you just
I just go for it.
Well, tell us about the events that are coming up, though.
Okay, so answering your first part of the question about how I got involved with Frederick Douglass will explain how I got to this point. So when Barack Obama was leaving office, I was actually grieving. I was like, oh, as so many of us. But you know, there's something that happens to me in the morning. I get all these really good thoughts in the morning. I woke up one morning and I said, well, you know, we had someone who came as close to being a president that he could be in his day and time, and that was Frederick Douglass. And I said that without really knowing a lot about him. He's like this mythical, person that you see in statues and streets and schools and all these things. But I said that, and then I said, but how much do you really know about him? And so my goal was to kind of like, I call it melting the ice off of the icon. I wanted to find out about this person, this God, this kind of mythical, icon
so
person.
Frederick Douglass just came to mind when you thought he was as close to president.
Right. I felt we had a president unofficially, which I felt was him.
Why is that?
And when I did my research, I still believe that. Well, Frederick Douglass was the person who spoke up for and actually negotiated for us to become free. He was called upon by Abraham Lincoln. And he actually, just like you and I are talking, he met with Abraham Lincoln 3 times.
Oh, 3 times? Really?
And enlisted those who were enslaved to help fight the war, because unbeknownst to a lot of people, the Union Army was losing the Civil War. And Frederick Douglass said, well, let us fight for our own freedom. And so with the help of the African Americans enslaved, we were able to do that.
Why wouldn't they let the enslaved people fight in the Union Army? Do you know why they would not?
Well, I don't think it even crossed their mind to have slaves fighting, because they were slaves.
Well, and also they had guns. Do they have access to guns, right?
But, Frederick Douglass was a person who was very resourceful and was very, wanted to be able to control his own destiny, and felt that that African Americans and that the slaves, someone was already controlling our destiny, and here was a war that was ultimately about the slavery issue, and we wanted to be free, so let us fight for our freedom. That's how he felt.
Please call the show if you have any questions about the relationship between Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. 212-757-1393. That's 212-757-1393. A lot of people don't realize that Frederick Douglass had a large hand in the freedom of enslaved people. They don't realize that his children, he enlisted all, what was it,
his two of his sons fought. They were of age to do so. The other son was too young to do so, but the two that were able, yes, and one almost died and died of very serious, he came very close to death. So he almost lost his son to the war. And Frederick Douglass actually was given a job by Abraham Lincoln. The exact title of which I can't restate right now, but he was given a job where he would go into the trenches when the Union Army would take over an area and free those slaves and then turn them around and have them fight.
Wow.
So he literally was on the battleground walking through with this job.
And being that he was on the battleground, I understand that he know that there was a difference in the way they were treated.
That's another thing that fascinates me about Frederick Douglass. This is a person I feel had so much gall. So imagine this. Okay, so you go there and you create a job for yourself. So he basically created a job for the enslaved people, and they were going to get paid because, soldiers do get paid. And he went back to Abraham Lincoln when he discovered that the black soldiers were getting paid less than the white soldiers. So he went back and said, well, we quit. We're not going to fight anymore. And of course, Abraham Lincoln said, well, why not? You're paying the white soldiers X amount and you're paying us less. So we want to get equal pay. So he's also a union laborer. I mean, there's so many things that this person turned out to be. And that to me is just, I was laughing about it. I was like, okay, I'm a slave, somebody's paying me. Most people would say, well, okay, I'm glad I'm getting something. No, it still wasn't enough. That takes gall. This is the kind of person that we were dealing with. And so Abraham Lincoln had to, he had to respect that. There's another, since we're talking about the Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass relationship, there's another interesting thing that happened. When Abraham Lincoln was reelected to his second term, the inaugural ball, Frederick Douglass was not invited because he's black, right? So Frederick Douglass went up to the White House, to the front door, and they wouldn't let him in. So a little scuffle kind of, and he said, well, go find Abraham Lincoln because he'll let me in because I helped him so much. And so finally, somebody went and got Abraham Lincoln, and he said, yes, let him in. He's my friend. And that's how he went in. So he even crashed the inaugural ball. Because he was about, I'm entitled. He was about entitlement, equality, and he was not, he was a person who, yes, he was born of a African mother and his white master, okay? And he was not a person who really, from having done about 3 years of research now, because I've really been doing a Frederick Douglass festival for about 3 years. This is the third season.
Well, wow, that's great. Before we get into that festival, I want to talk about what I like myself and other people like about Frederick Douglass is that he was self-taught, taught himself how to read and write, became this great orator. And people would come from everywhere just to hear him speak. And he traveled speaking against, slavery and all that. But the scuffle, when you mentioned scuffle, it brought me back when he fought one of his, his owner, one of the owners?
Oh, yes.
Or somebody he was lended out to, I forgot. Yes. He fought this guy.
Yes,
and that guy never brought him again.
Plantation. So this is a journal. It's not a book because I'm a public historian and I talk to the general public. So I'm very realistic about how much the general public wants to know and how much time they're going to dedicate. So what I do is do a lot of research and then I boil it down for the general public. So this is something that I created. It has a copyright of 2017, where it talks about all these places that you can go in Maryland and Baltimore and Washington, D.C., which was his hub. That's where he was born, in that area. I wanted to know where I could go to witness things that were really in his life. And a lot of those plantations and things are still around, amazingly so. So the one where you're talking about, where Covey, he and Covey had that fight that lasted a half an hour,
Right.
or at least he wrote about it.
Yes.
And he said he had to, state his manhood and
Right.
rebel.
Right.
And the reason why that happened was because he was so rebellious that his masters, they had people that were known as slave breakers.
Right.
And so if you had a slave that was so unruly, there were certain slaves that, this is Covey. This is the plantation.
Oh, really? That's
right.
what that, okay.
Okay, so that's the plantation where he was. And it's in St. Michael's, Maryland. So
When they had the slave breakers, they broke you. They did anything they could to break
they
you,
were so
right?
difficult. Yeah, they would bring you there. And Frederick Douglass also writes that Covey was so bad, he asked his master to would he take and bring him back, and he said, no, you stay. you stay there. You stay there. But they had a push-pull, relationship.
McCovey never bothered him.
No, he
again.
never bothered him
the
again
big
after that.
slave breaker.
Exactly.
You
He
should
had
say.
to break the slave breaker.
You know what was so much interesting about Frederick Douglass? And mind you saying that, I'm going to not digress, but say something about the schools are not teaching us, maybe not the parents either. But I remember going to bed as a child. My mother would say nursery rhymes. And after the Red Riding Hood and everything, she would talk about slavery. And she would talk about how the man would come and break you up. You wouldn't see John anymore. You wouldn't see Christina anymore. You wouldn't see Octavia anymore. So that affected me a lot. That's what happened to Frederick Douglass. He was sold from his mom, correct? And I remember reading that his mom would have to walk a mile before they miss her, so for work, to just hold him to sleep and walk back. But she eventually died. And she was, I'm not sure, African? Or
Yeah, she was African, yes.
Yeah, she was African. So, if you can really think about that, the destruction, the emotional turmoil that's still probably in our DNA. They say that geniuses are in our DNA. Well, think about the hurt. Think about all of that we as a people went through as slavery, being whipped, raped in front of your families, being separated and all that. That is still a part of us. So it's a lot of work.
And not having a family or a mother or a father or and then being left to like his cousins and his aunt. Yeah. Who used to starve him to death.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, really? Wow.
His aunt, one of his aunts, that was a cook, because she had her kids, and he was light complexioned.
Right. Okay.
Not his mother was not, but he was light complexioned, and this aunt that was the cook, and had her own children. She didn't like him. That was one of the reasons, knowing where he came from and who fathered him and stuff like that. And she wouldn't feed him. And so he was.
He was like, I do want to say one thing I do remember. His grandmother took him to another plantation, and I think he was about 5 years old, maybe older, I don't know, and told him to go play with the kids, and she left. And he looked around. He realized his grandmother was gone. But what happened was he was sold to another plantation. So he said he sat there and he cried and he cried. And I'm about to cry, but I'm gonna hang in there. He cried. You're talking about child trauma.
Exactly.
Child trauma. Yeah, Frederick Douglass was a remarkable man. He was an angel, I should say, that was one of the chosen.
Well, I think he chose himself.
Okay.
I don't think he was per se a chosen. He was a very, they talked to some people that were in their 90s and whatever, that was still alive and knew him as a child after he had become who he was, that we knew him to be. And they said even as a kid, he was always talking about getting out, leaving,
Oh, really? Wow.
escaping. And when he did finally escape, that wasn't his first attempt. You know, there are people who
That wasn't. Oh,
who
wow.
have a trajectory that they know about early on in their life. And in spite of everything that happened with him, he always knew he was going to get out. You know, he lived and breathed, not because somebody was going to be nice and put him out, but he used to pay off those little white boys to help him read.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that one.
he
I
was
knew-
actually taught by his initial reading lessons was one of the slave master's wives.
Yeah.
And when her husband caught them, literally caught them practicing reading, in front of Frederick Douglass, he said, don't teach him how to read. Once you teach a slave how to read, he can never be a slave. And he became more determined
To do
so
that.
this was something that, a
Yeah.
seed that came in him very early.
Let's take this phone call. Caller, you watching Sister Talk TV show. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, my name is Frida. I'm calling from Harlem.
Hi, Frida. How you doing?
I'm good.
That's-
I'm glad I caught this show.
Thank you.
And my question is, right now there's a huge momentum for African American descendants of slavery to get reparations. Every Democratic presidential candidate is being asked, how do you feel about reparations? I'd like to ask your guest, what is their feeling or their sense where Frederick Douglass, where our ancestors who pushed us through enslavement, got us on the other side of enslavement, where we had nothing and left with nothing. How would he feel about our demand for reparations in 2019?
Caller, can I ask you a question? How do you feel about it before we answer that? Or Tammy?
I hope it's evident, but yes, I definitely feel we are overdue and there should be interest on it.
Oh, I hear you. Thank you very much.
Yes, I definitely feel that we should have gotten, and we should get reparations. I mean, other cultures got reparations, and there was actually a form of reparation that was put in place right after slavery. Reconstruction was a legal system to immerse the once enslaved Africans into society. Colleges were set up. There was the Freedmen's Bank. There were some problems with it. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of things that were put in place, and Reconstruction was a legal thing, and it was to end in 1877. But if you remember, there were African Americans holding office. There were senators and other civil leaders that were able to run. We were given full citizenship. So there was a form of, it wasn't a dollar and cents kind of thing. We know that the 40 acres and a mule thing didn't really pan out, but that was the form of
Reparations.
the reparations, so to speak.
And they flipped it. The Democrats flipped it, and they got kicked out of Congress and Senate, and here we are today.
Well,
we have
what-
to
oh,
go
okay.
ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, what actually happened with Reconstruction is that it was a legal mandate, and it ended officially in
Oh, it ended.
1877.
Okay, my
Right.
bad. Okay,
Right.
Let's take this phone call. Caller, you watching Sister Talk TV show. What's your name and where you calling from?
Oh, Carol calling from Harlem.
Say hello to Tammy. How you doing?
Hello.
Hi.
I just wanted to say that if you ever do come back, could you please speak about the very first Black president that we actually had?
Oh yeah, I forgot his name. Tammy, Carol. What's his name? I know you're talking about you know.
I can't remember either.
Because he passed big time, right?
Well, he didn't. Yeah, I forget his name, and he didn't identify himself as Black, but in his lineage, and I can't even remember his name. It was not one of the most well-known or earth-shaking presidents, but in his lineage, and I can't remember which one it is because I don't want to throw out the name,
Okay.
but there was someone who had in his lineage. Okay.
Are you still there?
Yes, go ahead.
He came right after George Washington.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll talk about. That's a good topic. That's a good show to have. Passing.
Yeah. It's
Thank you, Carol. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Before we get into, we only have a couple of more minutes before we go to the video, but I want to talk about his obituary.
Oh, yes.
New York Times wrote an obituary. Please elaborate.
Okay, so there's 2 events happening in Harlem regarding Frederick Douglass. And the first one, April 18th, myself and Dr. William Sorrell of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, better known as ASALH, we are going to be going over this obituary. Now, the reason why the obituary came into the story was that Frederick Douglass chose Valentine's Day as his birthday. He knew he was born in February. His mother used to call him her little Valentine, so he just chose that day. So this year on Valentine's Day, the New York Times reprinted his obituary of 1895.
Oh, wow.
So when I printed it out, it's about 15 pages, and I was reading it, and I went, there were some things. And other historians did the same. We read it, and we kind of had some issues.
So what was the biggest thing that was missing for us?
There's a few things.
But what the one that we were talking about? I want to mention that. We have to say that.
Okay. So this obituary is quite sprawling since he had quite a long life. But I was incensed enough to say that I was going to have a panel discussion and put together an event, which was not on my radar. I was incensed by the fact that they never mentioned his wife, the mother of his 5, 1 child died, 4 children, never mentioned her by name or anything. And
Say my name. Say my name.
Thought that was terrible.
Yes. She's the one who, what was her name? again?
Anna Murray Douglas.
She was the one who helped him escape, bore his 5 children, entrepreneur. She wasn't just sitting at home. She was making money, providing, while he was touring all over the country and over the world, Europe, and all that. And didn't mention his name, but he did mention the last wife, the second wife.
Yes, but because that's who he was with when he died, and everything was about her.
And you know, I'm not to overshadow his accomplishments, but I have to say this though, is because she was white, I believe they mentioned her and wanted to put Miss Anna in the back. Tell us about the convention.
So, there will be a discussion, first of all, about that obituary, a panel discussion where we will go through the obituary, because the other historian that's on the panel with me has some other things, some issues that he wants to discuss. And I mentioned, as you say, one thing that I want to. So we will be clarifying, elongating, eliminating, just rewriting this whole thing. Because, right now, history is in the hands of the people. And we are no longer accepting statues of people, of Confederate losers, okay? We are not accepting these things anymore. We're not going to accept all this wrong information or misinformation that is out there about our people. Right. We need to be in control and tell our own stories.
Okay, so you have the events May 4th.
May 4th is a gala that's a fun thing.
Okay.
May 4th is the community is going to come together.
And it's a gala of events. And April 18th is...
April 18th is the talk about the obituary. Okay.
We're going to have to take a break, okay?
Okay.
And we'll be right back. Thank you. We're going to take a video break, and we'll be right back. Oh, you know what they were telling me? I misread that. They were telling me to keep going. But I thought we had to take a video break.
Oh, okay.
Wow, man.
So let me finish telling you about May 4th, because May 4th is something that everybody, you can't miss it. It's going to be so fantastic.
Okay.
So what it is, I went to Mother AME Zion Church, which is on 137th between Lenox Avenue.
Mother Zion.
Yes. Mother AME Zion Church is the oldest black church in Manhattan.
Wow. Yes.
1795. It started down in Lower Manhattan, and it is now permanently in this location. And it has been landmarked. It is the headquarter church for the AME Zion denomination, which is a break off of the Methodist Church that the slaves and the enslaved, they were going to John Methodist Church downtown, and down by Wall Street, but they had to sit up in the balcony, and they couldn't be served communion until everybody else, and all these different things. So they broke off and started their own church. Okay, so that's what the AME Zion, African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church.
Okay.
And Frederick Douglas was a member of that church. He also was ordained a minister, but he didn't continue his career as a minister because he got involved with the abolitionist movement.
Freedom fighters, I call them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that church is called the Freedom Church. And actually, that's the church I was born into. That's my denomination. I'm from Long Island. I went to a small AME Zion church, but that's the headquarter church for the denomination.
Okay.
So when I moved into Manhattan, I have an association with that church. So I wanted to do a Frederick Douglass program, so I went to them. It made sense to see if they were interested in hosting the event. And so they are opening up their doors for the event. But it is not a religious event. It is a community event. And we're going to have speakers, performers, great oratory. We have, the 4th of July, Frederick Douglass's famous 4th of July speech will be performed by Jonathan Dewberry.
Wow.
I'm sure that a lot of people know that name because last summer he was in a play and he was playing James Baldwin. He's a very fine actor, and he's going to be doing that speech. I'll be singing. There's some great singers. Oh, we have African dance, we have drumming.
So it's going to be, I'll be there.
It's going to be a fantastic event.
So, go ahead.
It is in collaboration with the Office of the Manhattan Borough President, Gail Brewer.
Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I can't wait to be there. Can't wait to see it. Come check it out. Again, what's the dates again?
May 4th, 2 o'clock, Mother AME Zion. Free, just come on in.
April 18th.
April 18th is the lecture at the Grinnell.
So here's what we have. We have Saychelle back. She's going to sing another song. What song is that?
Today I'm going to sing Blessed. It's the second single off of my album, A Sinner's Prayer.
Okay, so we're going to sing that. So blessed. We are blessed. Who is abusing you?
My uncle's aunt, his daughter, her daughter's daughter.
When you realize that he's blessed you and there's nothing that can change it, you can't deny you feel special, 'cause the Lord showed you his favor. Mind focused, mouth open, hands raised, 'cause you know I gotta praise him. It shows I awaken to a new me state of mind. Shut down the pity party, 'cause I found a brand new dance. Yeah, yeah. Told sadness you best go home, 'cause round here you don't stand a chance. When you realize that he's blessed you and there's nothing that can change it, you can't deny you feel so special, 'cause the Lord showed you his favor when you, yeah. good times. Always in the back of my mind, I felt something just wasn't right. I was missing him in my life. But now that I found that peace, the puzzle of my restless heart is complete. Yeah, confusion's in retreat since I walk in holy clarity. It's so clear when you, yeah, that he's blessed you, and there's nothing that can change it. No, you can't deny. You feel special 'cause the Lord, hey, he showed you his favor, yeah. Ooh, whoa, whoa, there's nothing better than this. Whoa, when I look back over my life, hey, oh, I'm so grateful. Oh, hallelujah, yeah. When you realize that he's blessed you, and there's nothing that can change, whoa, you won't deny. You feel special, 'cause the Lord showed you his favor. Whoa, yes, he blessed you. When you've been blessed, nothing can change. You can't deny you feel, 'cause the Lord, yeah, yeah, he showed you his favor. Oh, yeah.
Hey, let's give her a hand. Yeah. Come on over here so we can know a little bit more about you. Fine. Oh my God. So a great, 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 great song. You are blessed. Let's give it up one more time for Saychelle.
Yes.
Saychelle.
Yes.
Saychelle Elise.
Yes.
Well, you know, I always ask singers this, you know, because I always get different answers. But and you all can ask her questions too, 212-757-1393. When did you start singing?
So I started singing when I was 3 years old.
3 years old. Okay.
Yeah, like literally. The first song I sang was "So Many Stars" by Sarah Vaughan. My
really?
grandmother was a huge Sarah Vaughan fan, and I used to sing those songs and Johnny Mathis songs when I was growing up. Yeah, my grandma was like a diehard fan, so that's what I started singing, and I was like started to get serious about it like around 8 or 9, and I've been writing since I was 15.
So you wrote that song?
No, that is the only song on my album that me and my husband did not write.
Okay, so you have a whole album, that's right, LP.
Yes.
Of songs that you and your husband have written.
Yes.
So y'all a dynamic duo.
Absolutely. He's my super producer. Shout out to James Capture for Capture Life Music. I've been really blessed because my husband, he's an incredible pianist, and he produces as well. And it took us 7 years to work on the album.
Really?
So it was a long time. It was rough. I mean, literally
Why
blood,
7
sweat,
years?
and tears.
Because of the studio?
Well, no, not necessarily the studio, because we actually own our own studio that we've built from our hands up. And it was just, you know, writing, making sure we had some good quality material. And just, you know, we got kids, you know, we work, you know, just finding the time.
Right. I can
and
understand.
it can be, it's definitely overwhelming. It is not easy to record an album.
So your whole album is gospel?
Yes, I'm a gospel artist.
Christian? Are you Christian? Yeah. What church you go to?
I attend Velsburg Assembly of God.
Shout it out. You got to shout on a phone call.
Shout out to Velsburg Assembly of God, my VAG fam. That's 962 South Orange Avenue in Newark, New Jersey.
And that's where you're
Pastor
from.
Adriana, hey girl.
Okay. So do you only sing gospel? Do you sing other types of music?
Well, I'm an R&B head to the core. I love R&B music, and I feel like, you know, God is love, and I think Jesus is dope. So, of course, my music has a lot of its roots in R&B, love songs, ballads, and things like that, but and worship as well. I think it's very important that you find a balance, you know, and it's not traditional gospel music, but I think that it's really important to appeal to the kids and to the youth because they got to believe in something. You know, a lot of them, you know, don't think there's a God, or they don't, you know, they don't think Jesus is dope. But like I said, I think that Jesus is he's my everything, and it's very important for us to encourage the kids to believe in something. Like there's something higher than you out there, and something that you can lean on when you feel like, you know, you're stressed and everything. So like I said, my roots are in R&B music. A lot of my stuff sounds very current, but yeah, I'm a gospel artist, like to my core.
You know, I wrote a play, Whose Side Are You On? It's about 16-year-old Lamont who's at a crossroad. Should he return to the church or stay with the gang who revenged his father's death?
Wow.
And what you just said spoke a mouthful about the play. It's about there is a higher power.
Absolutely.
You're somebody you can lean on to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, since time is running out, I just want to really talk about Nipsey Hussle. You know, and you heard about him.
Yes.
And you heard about him, Tammy. Me and Tammy, we didn't know nothing about him.
No,
Yeah.
I can't profess. I have to be honest. I never heard of him.
Never heard of him, didn't know anything about him, never heard his music or anything. But when he was killed, the love that came out.
Absolutely.
I said, this man was something else. He
Right.
was really special. So how do you all feel about that? I mean, I know how I feel not knowing who he is, but please, I feel that we should just at least have a mile. You all too, 212-757-1393. Please chime in how you felt about Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey Hussle's murder.
Well, I just wanted to. I wasn't very familiar with his music. Of course, I knew some of his songs, but I was familiar with what he did in the community, and I think that that's most important. Whatever you're doing, if you have a platform, use it for something that's in the greater good. Like, you know, you want to encourage the young people that's looking up to you, not so much, you know, gangster rap and all that stuff, but just give back to your community. You know, go back and you know, open up a store. Make sure that you're pouring into where you grew up. You can't forget about your environment. You don't have to become a product of it, of your environment, but you can also, you know, pour into the community and show them that there's something that you can do something positive.
Right,
you know, use your platform for something positive.
Let's take this phone call. Caller, you watching Sister Talk? You know, like I said, it appears that he was an angel because the love was there.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was a gang member, and from what I understand, once a gang member, always a gang member. So you're a gang member till you die, I suppose. I don't know anything too much about that. But it seemed like he was trying to do something for his community.
Yeah,
he stayed.
He
He was in the
Right.
community, and he bought this place, vacant lot, and opened up nothing but a row of stores.
Right.
Black entrepreneurs.
Right.
So that's a lot. Free your mind, right? Stanley, free your mind. Caller, you watch the Sister Talk TV show. What's your name and where you calling from?
Hi, this is Crystal. How you doing? How's everybody doing?
We're doing great.
The sister that's saying, how you pronounce your name?
It's Saychelle Elise.
Saychelle?
Like Michelle, but Saychelle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a group of islands on the
That
east
song
coast.
was
Yes.
pretty.
Yeah. Thank you.
That song, the last song you sang, it was very, very nice. So make sure you give your email on how we can connect. It reminded me of Corrine, I forget her last name, the singer. She made that record, Won't He Do It?
Oh, yes, I love her.
You know that song I'm talking about, right?
Yes, Corinne Hawthorne,
Yeah,
she's
your
dope.
song reminds me of her song.
Thank you.
It's really, the flow is beautiful.
Thank
really
you so
beautiful.
much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
That's it? Thank you. Thank you. Thank
hello?
you. Okay. All right.
Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Oh, okay. The Frederick Douglas piece at the Amy, she didn't mention whether there was going to be a fee, a charge, and I believe it's on 136.
It's
not 137.
absolutely free.
I think it's on 135th, though, and between Lennox and
137th. 137th.
Oh, almost 1:37.
It's free. It's free.
It is free.
Let's
AME.
celebrate.
Oh, can I say one more thing?
You might as well. Yeah.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I think we do not need to mix rap beats with Christian music. It confuses the kids because most people look at rap, even though I know better. A lot of rappers are brilliant. It's not what they're beating, it's what they're saying that the adults need to listen to, but children will get confused with the flow because most gangsters are looked upon as drug dealers, evil people that kill and all kinds of things. So if you're mixing a beat of a gangster to a Christian tune, it's not good. Children can't process that.
Okay,
and they
thank
need
you.
to stop doing it. Thank you.
You know what that reminds
have
me
a
of?
moment to
Yeah, you know what it
respond to that?
reminds me of when she said that? When I looked at the movie Ray, you remember that club scene?
Oh,
that
yeah.
guy got up and said, I can't do this no more. Can't sing the blues with Christianity. No, but go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to respond to that. I feel that it is very important that we don't put limits on what God can do and who He can touch. I have done remixes to some secular music. Like if you check out my YouTube channel, you'll see I did a remix to Kendrick Lamar's "Love." I did a remix to SZA's song "The Weekend." I did a remix to Monica's. What's the song? So Gone. I did put a Christian spin on it. I don't feel like there are any limits on God's music. If I want to sing it over hip hop, death metal, classical, opera, whatever, you can't put limits on God, because at the end of the day, when you look at the Bible and look at the stories, a lot of the miracles that happened were not in the church. The Lord was hanging out with the prostitutes, the drug addicts, and things like that.
And the hip-hop artists also.
Right, and he hung out with the unsavory people. He loved everybody, so we can't put limits on God. I respect your opinion, but it's just that an opinion. I feel like when you appeal to a child or to a young person who maybe that's the only music that they listen to, and if it has a message and that's the only thing that's going to bring them to Christ, then I want to make sure that I'm a part of that movement.
Yeah. Yeah, I think God, if Jesus was here, which He is now, I think He's,
He was
nodding
a
to
rebel.
the beat. I think He's nodding to the beat.
Absolutely.
Especially when it's Christianity.
Right.
You have anything?
I think that music is one of the things that we make a terrible mistake about. Putting it in a slot and saying, and putting a label on music. Music is an experience, and it comes out of experiences.
Absolutely.
So therefore, gospel music, we have these shelves, gospel, blues, jazz, this and that, and people go like it's a smorgasbord. I like that, I don't like this. But all of this is an experience. Mm-hmm. And if you really love music, you're able to grasp and understand how different types of music evolved, one from the other. And it's all just, we're all the same people, just expressing ourselves in different ways. And so I don't like limitations put on music.
Right.
By you all saying that, I look at Nipsey Hussle. His music, his thing was music. And maybe he used that to get people to come and not only support his business, but you can do it also. You can do it too, you know. So, it's just, when I think of Nipsey Hussle, I'm thinking about him. I think of his mother. I think of the kids. I think of his wife or his girlfriend. And it's just so sad that, again, another black man took him out like that. Do y'all have any thoughts about that? Or do you have any thoughts, Tammy?
Oh, I think that, I'm sorry, did you want to respond to that?
After you.
I think that crime is crime, murder is murder, no matter who's doing it. But especially in our community, we need to stop doing it to each other, because we can't expect everybody else to stop doing it to us if we're not first being the example, setting the example. It is very sad and very unfortunate that it was someone that he knew, to my understanding, that they would not support his movement and support what he's doing, but have so much hate, that they want to ultimately, you know, murder him
Yeah.
and stop him from being such a positive force in the community.
And that goes back to when we were talking about Frederick Douglass, the childhood trauma. That's what I'm thinking is in your DNA. There are some things that we have not resolved as a community that we're still taking out on each other.
Agreed.
By putting it, you know, by putting us in these gangs. And from what I understand, once upon a time, gangs weren't all about that. They were
Right.
really about helping the community and all that.
Right.
You know, 3 minutes? Yeah, I got you, honey. So we're going to have to go ahead and close the show. Is there any way anybody could contact you, Tammy?
Yes, but I don't think you need to. You can come right to Mother AME Zion Church, which is on 137th Street in Harlem, 2 o'clock, May 4th. It's a free event, performance, oratory, acting, and a big reception in honor of Frederick Douglass. We'll be there.
And I will too. I will be there also.
Awesome.
Good.
Well, you can contact me on all social media at Saychelle Elise. That's S as in Sam, EYCHELLE, Elise, ELISE. And my album is available. It's called A Sinner's Prayer. It's on all digital outlets, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon. Wherever you can purchase music, you can purchase the album and listen to it and stream it. And I do hope that, you know, you support and that the album blesses you. I'm definitely rocking out on the album. And there's a great message across the board. So share it with your cousins, your kids and everybody.
Okay.
And yeah, just, you know,
Yes, do that.
yeah,
Okay.
support me.
All
And my
right.
website, I'm sorry, is SaychelleElisemusic.com. And you can email me for bookings or anything at info@SaychelleElisemusic.com.
Okay, one
do
more
it right.
thing. April 18th, if you are so inclined, we will be discussing the obituary of Frederick Douglass, also a free program at the Grinnell, which is an apartment building, but we're in the community room, ground level. That is Riverside Drive, 800 Riverside Drive, 800 Riverside Drive at West 157th Street,
Okay.
6 p.m.
I have something to say now. Okay, just want to say that Frederick Douglass, when his mother used to walk a mile before she went back to work, I would say, I believe she was saying things to him like, you can be somebody. You're never going to be a slave for this long. I think that he got that from him. Nipsey Hussle mother said that she knew that there was going to be death in the family, but she was hoping she would go before any of her kids go. You know, I just think these mothers out here they know what's happening. There's a Christ, there's a God in them, you know, and thank you, mothers, for bringing these people into the world. Here we have the songstress, Saychelle Elise. What are you singing, Saychelle?
I'll be singing Your Way Is Better, which will be the third single off my album, A Sinner's Prayer.
Okay, let's go.
I feel like I've been climbing up a tallest mountain, and it seems to be impossible. I look back over my life and I see what I've accomplished. It's discouraging for me to stumble. Then you encourage me to stand. I never knew safety till I fell in your hands. And I want to thank you, Lord, yes, for not allowing me to do it my way. I don't know where I'd be today if you didn't protect me from myself. Whoa, and I found that your way is better. Your way is better. Your way is better. Your way is better. Your way is understanding has me moving backwards, and I don't even know it's not safe. But God, you're so amazing. You saw what I could never see, and you took me out of harm's way. I know you're ordering my steps. Your grace has never failed me. Yeah, I wanna thank you, Lord, for not allowing me to do it my way. I don't know where I'd be today if you didn't protect me from myself. Oh, and I found that your way is your way is your way is better. Your way is better. Your way is better. And I don't need nothing else but the blessings of the sun. Fill my heart, Holy Spirit, and let your will be done. Thank you, Lord, for not allowing me to do it my way. I don't know where I'd be today if you didn't protect me from myself. And I found that your way is better. Your way is better, better, better. Your way is better. Your way is better. Your way is better, better. I feel like I've been climbing up the tallest mountain, and it seems to be impossible.
Oh, yes. Your way is better. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for staying after the live telecast. Deidre Kelson, as always, I am wishing you peace, love, and remember, stay in the light.
Sister, 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 sister talk, sister, 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 sister talk. Something on your mind anytime.